So we were going to talk about the tiara.
Will we?
Yeah.
I thought I'd said no.
I know, but I just think it would look so fabulous if you
Yeah, but I've
did.
only got little tiny tiaras. They're not really worth it.
The room had been prepared for a routine legal formality, but the moment the final page was read aloud, every assumption inside the palace collapsed. The Duke of Kent's sealed testament did not divide his most treasured royal heirlooms among several relatives. It named one recipient above all others. Catherine would receive the entire personal collection, while Camilla, despite her rank beside the king, was deliberately denied every piece. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Charles watched the executor unfold the document inside a Windsor chamber, while William remained close to Catherine, and Camilla sat opposite them. The sealed testament, a legally witnessed statement recording the Duke's final wishes, had been kept under strict instructions, and even advisors had received no summary. That secrecy mattered, because the collection was not merely property. It carried family memory, military service, grief, and royal trust. The executor reached the decisive clause and read aloud. Every personal heirloom owned by the Duke, including historic brooches, ceremonial objects, family miniatures, military keepsakes, and private jewels, would pass to Catherine alone. Then came the second sentence. Camilla could not receive, borrow, direct, or control a single item. Catherine did not move. William glanced toward her, but she kept her eyes on the page, stunned by an inheritance that placed her judgment above the Queen's in the Duke's final decision. Camilla slowly removed her glasses. She set them beside the document and asked for the exclusion clause to be read again. The executor obeyed, and the rejection filled the room a second time. Her humiliation sharpened, because this was not an accidental omission. It was a deliberate barrier written to survive pressure from the palace and prevent any compromise after the Duke's death. The legal advisor then revealed the most disturbing detail. The sentence excluding Camilla had not been drafted by a solicitor. The Duke had added it in his own handwriting only weeks before sealing the testament. Charles closed the folder and said nothing. His silence suggested recognition, as though he already knew which private wound had driven the Duke to make such a severe distinction. William noticed another envelope beneath the final page, marked with his uncle's personal seal and addressed to him alone. He placed one hand over it, understanding that its contents might defend Catherine, condemn Camilla, or expose the moment when the Duke's trust had finally broken. But before William could understand why Catherine had been chosen, he first had to confront what every person in that room stood to gain, or lose, from the Duke's final act. The testament appeared to concern jewels, portraits, and ceremonial relics, but its real subject was far more dangerous: belonging. Catherine saw a burden she had never requested. Camilla saw a rejection she could never publicly admit had wounded her. And behind both women stood King Charles and Prince William, two heirs from different generations, who understood that the Duke's decision had placed the monarchy's private loyalties on trial. Catherine left the reading beside William, but the silence between them carried more weight than any spoken reaction. The Duke of Kent had represented continuity, duty, or an older form of royal service built on restraint rather than attention. His personal heirlooms were not crown property, items officially owned and managed for the protege, but family possessions tied to private grief, old promises, and names that could easily disappear once their stories were forgotten. That was why his choice mattered. Catherine had never treated him as a ceremonial obligation. During long family gatherings, she had listened when he spoke about relatives no longer alive, remembered which miniature belonged to which ancestor, and asked about the military keepsakes others passed without noticing. In his difficult later years, she had offered patience without seeking favor, and he had remembered every moment. Catherine entered a private anteroom and clasped her hands tightly as William closed the door. Behind them, she told him that accepting the entire collection could make it appear she had gained from an elderly man's disappointment with someone else. She feared the heirlooms would become a weapon used to praise her by humiliating Camilla, and William could hear how deeply that possibility unsettled her. He reminded her that she had not written the testament, yet even he knew innocence would not stop the palace from dividing into sides. Camilla confronted Charles moments later, after the corridor had emptied. She asked whether he had known she would be excluded, and when the king hesitated, her face changed. She turned away before he could answer, taking his silence as proof that her husband understood the Duke's judgment long before she did. The pain came not only from losing the objects, but from the meaning behind the words. Rank had not secured trust. The Duke had judged Catherine a safer guardian of family memory than the woman beside the Duke's sovereign, and Camilla could not hide from that distinction. William felt the sealed envelope inside his coat as courtiers waited nearby. He refused to open it before them, knowing the explanation could protect Catherine or deepen the Queen's humiliation beyond repair. Then, an elderly family aide approached and quietly referred him to a memorial ceremony held 3 years earlier. According to her documented account, that afternoon marked the moment the Duke's trust in Camilla finally broke. That ceremony had seemed insignificant at the time, yet one conversation behind a closed library door would become the point of no return. Every royal rupture has a moment that looks harmless, until history returns to examine it. For the Duke of Kent, that moment came after a private memorial ceremony honoring generations of his family. Guests remembered the music, the formal greetings, and the polished speeches. He remembered something else, a conversation in which one treasured heirloom was treated not as family memory, but as an asset to be reassigned. The ceremony at St. George's Chapel had marked the anniversary of his mother's death, and the gathering carried a private weight no official speech could capture. The chapel, an ancient royal church within Windsor Castle, used for family services, weddings, and burials, held generations of memory for the Duke, while the reception afterward displayed heirlooms connected to the Kent branch of the family. Among them rested a sapphire brooch, once worn by his mother, a piece he viewed not as decoration, but as a living link to the woman whose absence still shaped him. Camilla approached him during the reception, after her household had begun reviewing privately owned jewels that might appear at future royal engagements. She asked whether the brooch could be released for her use at an upcoming state banquet, a formal dinner held by the monarch for visiting leaders and dignitaries. The Duke declined quietly, explaining that the jewel belonged with his family records. Camilla pressed again. She told him that important objects should serve the institution rather than remain locked inside private sentiment. His expression changed at once. To her, the brooch could strengthen the image of continuity. To him, her words had reduced his mother's memory to a useful accessory. Catherine found him alone in the library later, holding the closed case across his knees. He told her the jewel belonged to a woman whose life deserved more than strategic display, and she did not defend Camilla or ask to wear it herself. She sat beside him and listened as he spoke about his mother, the letters she had written, and the years of duty hidden behind the sapphire. The Duke then asked what Catherine would do if painful family histories were placed in her care. She answered that she would keep every name, letter, and explanation with the object so the person behind it could never disappear. That answer became the promise he had needed to hear. He returned home that evening and summoned his solicitor through a documented telephone call recorded in the estate file. The Duke removed the earlier arrangement, allowing selected heirlooms to enter royal household custody, replaced it with the complete bequest to Catherine, and wrote Camilla's exclusion in his own hand. In the present, an elderly aide showed Camilla the corresponding entry in his private diary. Her anger rose when she understood that Catherine's quiet compassion had become the foundation of her rejection. She immediately demanded a private meeting with the woman who had inherited everything. The inheritance had begun as the Duke's final expression of trust, but it was about to become a confrontation neither Catherine nor Camilla could avoid. There were no aides, no advisors, and no carefully prepared palace statements. When Catherine entered the small Windsor sitting room, Camilla was already waiting beside the fireplace, the copied testament resting on a table between them. For years, both women had survived royal tension through controlled smiles and measured distance. That protection vanished when the door closed, leaving them face to face with an inheritance neither could discuss without exposing deeper wounds. Camilla had demanded the meeting before the palace announced what would happen to the disc collection, and Catherine had agreed because refusing would look like fear. Worse, silence could allow private resentment to spread through the royal household, the network of staff and offices supporting the family, until every corridor carried a different version of the dispute. The Queen spoke first. She said Catherine's inheritance would not be seen as a simple family gift. It would be treated as a final verdict on her character, her judgment, and her place beside the king. Catherine answered that the decision belonged to the Duke, not to either woman, and discomfort could not become a reason to rewrite a dead man's wishes. Camilla's restraint broke. She accused Catherine of cultivating his affection while pretending to want nothing, pointing to the library conversation as proof that the future queen had understood exactly how to become the guardian he desired. Catherine felt the accusation land, but she did not retreat. Her composure hardened as she replied that the Duke had trusted her because she listened, without asking for jewels, access, or influence. She pushed the copied testament across the table and refused to apologize for showing kindness when he had felt dismissed. The silence that followed carried years of rivalry, rank, and unspoken suspicion. Camilla then offered what she called a private compromise. Catherine could keep the portraits, military keepsakes, family miniatures, and every other object if she released the sapphire brooch to the Queen's household. That office managed items used by the sovereign's spouse during official duties, but Catherine immediately understood the trap. Surrendering even one piece would weaken the exclusion clause and suggest that pressure could defeat the Duke's written command. She closed the brooch inventory and rose. After one long pause, Catherine said no. She would follow his wishes exactly, not to humiliate Camilla, but because changing them would repeat the same disrespect that had caused him to rewrite the testament. The Queen stood as well, wounded now by more than rejection. She opened the door and found Charles waiting in the corridor, close enough to have heard the force of their voices. Camilla looked directly at her husband and told him the moment for silence had ended. He must choose whether to defend his wife or enforce the judgment of a dead relative. Yet the decision did not rest on marriage alone, because control of the heirlooms now depended on a network of legal authority, family duty, and one person Charles could not simply overrule. Camilla believed the king could end the dispute with a command. The testament had been constructed to prevent exactly that. Beneath its emotional language sat a precise structure of trustees, private ownership, and written safeguards designed to keep the collection beyond palace pressure. The Duke had not merely chosen Catherine, he had anticipated resistance, identified where that resistance would come from, and placed the final power in hands that would not bend easily. Charles studied the legal papers with William beside him, and the truth became impossible to avoid. The heirlooms had belonged personally to the Duke and were not part of the royal collection. The historic objects officially held for the nation and managed on behalf of the monarchy. That difference stripped the sovereign of any automatic power to redistribute them. The king could advise, persuade, or express concern as a relative, but he could not simply order the collection away from Catherine. The testament named 3 trustees: the Duke's solicitor, a longtime family archivist, and William. Trustees are people legally required to protect property according to written instructions, not personal wishes. Every transfer, exhibition, or loan would need their approval, while Catherine remained the permanent guardian. Charles dismissed the remaining advisors and faced his son alone. He admitted that Camilla felt publicly diminished and privately abandoned. Then he asked whether one symbolic concession, the sapphire brooch, perhaps, might preserve peace inside the family. His voice remained calm, but William heard the conflict beneath it. The monarch wanted to protect his wife, yet he knew that bending the testament would dishonor the relative whose final wishes he was supposed to defend. William placed the sealed letter carefully on the desk. He told his father that Catherine had never asked for the inheritance and should not be forced to surrender part of it merely to soften the consequences of someone else's behavior. The prince then broke the seal and read the Duke's private explanation aloud. The documented letter warned that pressure might come through affection, rank, or fear of scandal. It instructed William to protect Catherine from any compromise presented as family unity. Charles listened without interruption. The words exposed how completely the Duke had predicted this conversation, including the emotional appeal the king had just made. Silence followed. Then the monarch reached for a memorandum, a formal written decision used to record an official position, and signed it. The document confirmed that the palace recognized the bequest as private, lawful, and beyond royal interference. Charles placed the pen down slowly, understanding that his signature would wound Camilla but protect the monarchy from appearing willing to overturn a valid inheritance for personal comfort. Before dawn, archival vehicles entered Windsor to collect the sealed cases. Camilla learned of the transfer not from her husband, but from the heavy movement of crates through the lower corridor outside her rooms. As the first case left the castle under Catherine's authority, the dispute stopped being theoretical, and every member of the family was forced to face the new reality. The fallout did not begin with a public announcement. It began with an empty cabinet. Camilla entered the secure display room, expecting to find the Kent sapphire brooch waiting behind glass, only to discover a pale outline where its case had rested. In that silent space, the legal language became real. The collection was gone, Catherine held the authority, and the Queen could no longer pretend the testament was merely symbolic. The Duke's heirlooms had been catalogued through a formal inventory, a complete written record listing each object, its history, and its condition before transfer. Catherine watched as the trustees moved every sealed case into a protected archive, and each piece arrived with handwritten notes explaining whose life it represented and how it should be preserved. That detail mattered, because the objects were no longer decorations waiting for another royal appearance. They had become a record of people, grief, service, and promises the Duke feared would otherwise vanish. Palace staff soon received strict instructions that no Kent heirloom could be requested through Camilla's office. Every inquiry had to pass through the trustees, the legally appointed guardians responsible for enforcing the testament, which made Catherine's authority visible across the household. Camilla touched the vacant shelf and asked her dresser to leave. Once the door closed, she lowered herself into a nearby chair, pulled off her gloves, and whispered that the Duke had wanted her to feel excluded. The emptiness hurt more than the missing sapphire. It proved that his final rejection had been designed to reach her after his death, when she could no longer defend herself or repair what had broken between them. Charles visited her that evening and found the Queen still carrying the wound. She asked why he had signed the memorandum without warning her. The king answered that advance notice would not have changed the law, the trustees, or the Duke's command. Camilla looked at him and replied that his warning might not have changed the testament, but his silence had changed their marriage. Elsewhere, Catherine opened the final archive case and discovered a small audio device marked "For her attention." She played the recorded message privately. The Duke's voice explained that the inheritance was not a reward and never should be treated as one. It was a responsibility to protect family memory from vanity, convenience, and the pressure of royal display. His words changed Catherine's purpose. She decided the collection would not disappear into her private possession or become a symbol of victory over Camilla. Instead, she began planning a documented family archive that would keep every jewel, miniature, letter, and military keepsake attached to the person whose life gave it meaning. Then Catherine made an unexpected request. She asked to meet Camilla again, without Charles, William, lawyers, trustees, or palace staff. This time, she would carry no testament and make no demand. She would bring only the Duke's recorded message. The first meeting had ended with refusal, but the second would force both women to decide whether the inheritance would remain a wound or become something neither had expected. Catherine arrived without an aide and found Camilla alone, seated beside a window, with no papers prepared and no argument rehearsed. For the first time since the testament opened, neither woman spoke as a future queen or reigning queen. They spoke as two people trapped inside a decision made by someone no longer present to explain himself. What followed did not erase the insult, but it changed who would control its meaning. Catherine had deliberately chosen a small private room, far from royal offices, where advisors could not interrupt and staff could not carry fragments of their words into the corridors. She placed the Duke's audio device on the table and promised Camilla that no official record, a written account kept by the palace, would be made of their conversation. Then she pressed play. The Duke's recorded voice spoke about duty, remembrance, and his fear that private family history would be reduced to ceremonial decoration after his death. He explained that jewels could survive for centuries while the names behind them disappeared within a generation. Camilla listened without moving. When the message ended, she admitted that the exclusion had wounded her for a reason deeper than possession. She had never wanted every jewel. She had wanted proof that the Kent branch of the family considered her trustworthy, and the handwritten denial confirmed the opposite. It felt like a final rejection, delivered after the Duke had placed himself beyond her answer. Catherine did not offer false comfort. She said his pain had been real, and the conversation after the memorial ceremony had caused lasting damage. Yet she also refused to let one failure become the whole measure of another person's life. Camilla looked toward the silent device, knowing she had treated the sapphire brooch as an institutional object, rather than the memory of a woman he still mourned. Catherine then revealed a path the testament had not forbidden. The Queen could never own, borrow, direct, or control the heirlooms, but she could help preserve the stories connected to them. The family archive, a protected collection, linking objects with letters, memories, and historical records, could include her recollections if they were offered without any claim of authority. Camilla asked to hear the recording again. After the Duke's final words faded, she took a folded page from her handbag and passed it across the table. It was a handwritten account of his mother, based on conversations preserved in her personal notes. She asked Catherine to place it beside the sapphire brooch and did not request the jewel again. That surrender changed the room. Catherine accepted the page, and together they agreed that the collection would be introduced through a memorial exhibition dedicated to the Duke. She would remain its guardian, while Camilla would attend without wearing a single Kent heirloom. Their private understanding could heal the family only if it survived the judgment waiting beyond the palace gates, where the world had already chosen its own version of the story. By sunrise, the secret testament belonged to the public. Broadcasters spoke of a royal rejection, newspapers described an inheritance war, and crowds gathered outside Windsor carrying photographs of Catherine and the late Duke. Yet one image came to define the entire uproar. A newspaper front page showing Catherine beside the words, "Chosen to remember," while a smaller photograph of Camilla appeared beneath the stark phrase, "Denied by his final hand." The palace moved quickly, confirming through a written statement that Catherine had inherited the Duke's personal heirloom collection, and that the bequest would be administered independently. A bequest is property formally left to someone through a will, and the word mattered because it placed the collection beyond ordinary palace control. The announcement avoided repeating the sentence excluding Camilla, but the wording had already reached every major newsroom. Commentators divided almost instantly. Some called the inheritance a powerful endorsement of Catherine's patience, judgment, and devotion to family history. Others argued that a private grievance had been transformed into a humiliating public verdict on the Queen. William found Catherine at Kensington Palace, standing over a table covered with newspapers. He watched her read praise that treated Camilla's pain as entertainment, and the future king understood that victory could become cruelty if left unchecked. Catherine told him she would not allow the Duke's legacy to become a triumphal display or a weapon against another woman. She had accepted guardianship, not permission to celebrate someone else's rejection. Camilla faced the uproar hours later when she arrived for a scheduled engagement. A reporter shouted whether the Duke had considered her unworthy. She stopped, steadied herself, and answered that his final wishes deserved respect before continuing inside. The brief response, captured in a recorded broadcast, changed the tone of the debate. Her restraint did not erase the exclusion, but it denied the public the angry reaction many had expected. Then the palace announced a limited memorial exhibition at Windsor, a temporary public display created to honor the Duke and explain the histories attached to his possessions. Attention immediately turned toward one question: would Camilla attend beside the woman who had inherited everything? Opening day delivered the answer. The waiting crowd fell quiet as Catherine and the Queen entered together. The future monarch wore no Kent jewel, while Camilla carried only the Duke's memorial program. Neither woman offered the spectacle of rivalry the headlines had promised. Their restraint turned public excitement into something more serious. Inside, Catherine stopped before the sapphire brooch. Beside her, Camilla remained silent as the gathered guests waited for the written description that would permanently explain why the Duke had trusted one woman with his collection and denied the other any control. The testament had named its heir, the public had delivered its judgment, but only the final inscription beside the sapphire brooch could reveal what the inheritance truly meant. The final verdict did not appear in a courtroom, a palace statement, or another explosive headline. It rested beside a sapphire brooch, in a simple handwritten inscription, approved by Catherine. The words did not celebrate her inheritance, or repeat Camilla's exclusion. They honored the woman who once owned the jewel, the Duke who protected her memory, and the lesson that had emerged from one of the monarchy's most painful private divisions. Catherine formally opened the Kent family memory collection, a protected archive, preserving each heirloom beside the letters, photographs, personal histories, and recorded explanations connected to it. Nothing disappeared into a general royal inventory, where objects could lose the names and emotions that gave them meaning. Every brooch, miniature, military keepsake, and ceremonial piece remained attached to the person whose life had shaped it. The testament was honored completely. Catherine retained guardianship of every item, while Camilla received no ownership, borrowing rights, or authority over the collection. The Duke's decision had not been softened, quietly reversed, or weakened for the sake of comfort. After the exhibition closed, Catherine stood with William and admitted that she had once feared the inheritance would divide the family forever. The prince listened as she explained what she had finally understood. The Duke had not chosen her so she could possess his history. He had chosen her because he believed she would stop that history from being stripped of its comfort. As sower, Camilla approached the sapphire brooch but did not touch the case. She read the remembrance she had written about the Duke's mother, now displayed beneath the jewel, and quietly told Catherine that the piece was finally being treated as he had wanted. The Queen accepted the boundary without asking for another concession, and that acceptance carried its own painful dignity. Charles joined them before the final departure. The King thanked Catherine for obeying both the legal wording and the moral purpose of the testament. He also acknowledged Camilla's decision to help preserve the collection without demanding control, admitting that respecting a boundary could require more strength than defeating it. The inheritance had changed them all. Catherine did not emerge triumphant, and Camilla did not become powerless. Instead, the future queen became the monarchy's trusted guardian of personal legacy, while the monarch's wife was forced to confront the damage caused when rank was mistaken for entitlement. The Duke's final message now stood beyond dispute. Crowns could grant status, but they could never command trust. Catherine received the heirlooms because she protected the people remembered through them. Camilla was denied because she once saw institutional value where he saw love. By accepting that judgment without overturning it, the family transformed rejection into responsibility, and his last wish was fulfilled completely. And when the exhibition doors finally closed, nothing remained unresolved. Catherine held the heirlooms. Camilla accepted the Duke's boundary, and the monarchy emerged with a lasting truth, that history belongs not to the highest title, but to the person trusted to remember it faithfully. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.